AOC mocked John Kennedy as a joke. His response left the audience in shock. Once upon a time in the magical land of Capitol Hill, where grown-ups in suits made big decisions and talked a lot, there lived two very different people, Princess AOC and Sir John Kennedy. Princess AOC was smart, brave, and full of energy. She came from the land of Bronxia, where people loved how she stood up for fairness and fun ideas. She was famous for speaking loudly and clearly, especially when she thought someone was being silly. Sir John Kennedy was an older knight from the Kingdom of Louisiana. He had kind eyes, a slow drawl when he spoke, and always had clever words ready. He looked like he had seen many sunrises and always carried a little notebook filled with wise thoughts and witty sayings. One sunny afternoon, all the people of Capitol Hill gathered in the big debate hall. The seats were full, cameras were flashing, and magical news birds flew overhead, chirping updates to the whole world. The topic of the day: how to help the people with giggleberry pies and unicorn rides. Okay, really it was something about jobs and schools, but that sounds much more fun. Princess AOC stood up first, wearing a bright red cape that sparkled in the light. She spoke with fire in her voice. We need to stop listening to people who don't take things seriously. Some people just joke around and say silly things instead of helping. She paused, turned toward Sir John Kennedy, and pointed gently. Like Sir Kennedy here. He talks in riddles and acts like everything's a joke. He's not helping, he's just laughing. He's kind of, well, a joke. Everyone in the hall gasped. The sound was so loud that even the squirrels outside froze. Sir John Kennedy didn't say anything right away. He simply blinked, tilted his head, and gave a little smile like he knew a secret. Then, slowly, he stood up, brushed off his long navy blue cloak, and pulled out his little notebook. Princess AOC, he began in his calm, slow voice. I may speak with a smile, and I may tell a riddle or two, but that doesn't mean I don't care. I just believe that if you can't laugh once in a while, you'll cry all the time. The crowd went quiet. And you're right, he said. Sometimes I do say funny things, but it's because the world is already so serious, and I believe people listen better when their hearts aren't heavy. He stepped forward and looked around the room. Let me tell you all a story, he said. Once there was a squirrel who tried to fix the forest all by herself. She was fast, strong, and had big dreams, but she was also angry. She barked at the birds, snapped at the snakes, and yelled at the owls. The kids in the audience leaned in. They liked animal stories. Well, he continued. One day the squirrel met a turtle. The turtle didn't move fast. He didn't yell, but he listened. He told jokes. He made others feel calm. And because he was kind, the animals listened to him too. Who do you think helped more in the end? Sir Kennedy asked gently. The audience murmured. Some said squirrel, others said turtle, but everyone was thinking. Sir Kennedy smiled. Sometimes, Princess, it's not about being loud, it's about being heard. And sometimes, a joke isn't just funny. It's a way to open someone's heart. The hall was silent for a moment. Even Princess AOC looked surprised. She had not expected such a gentle, wise response. She thought he would argue or try to be funny again. But instead, he spoke with kindness, and it touched everyone. Then something amazing happened. Princess AOC slowly nodded. Maybe I was a little harsh, she admitted. Maybe I need to learn to listen better too. Sir Kennedy gave a little bow, and maybe I could speak more clearly when it really matters. The whole room clapped and cheered. Even the magical news birds tweeted happy songs. From that day on, Princess AOC and Sir Kennedy didn't always agree, but they listened to each other. Sometimes they even shared lunch in the Capitol garden, giggleberry pies and sparkling lemonade. And while they still had debates and disagreements, they remembered the lesson of the squirrel and the turtle that loudness doesn't always mean rightness, and kindness doesn't mean weakness. And as for the audience that day, they would never forget how one wise knight answered a loud mockery with calm, clever kindness, and left everyone not just shocked, but inspired. From that famous day in the big debate hall, something magical began to happen all across the land of Capitol Hill. Word spread quickly, carried on the wings of the news birds and whispered by the talking trees in the courtyard, about how Sir John Kennedy had responded with kindness and cleverness, instead of anger or insults. Children at school started pretending to be Sir Kennedy in their classroom debates, using silly sayings like, "Even a porcupine can learn to dance if you play the right tune." And grown-ups, well, they started paying attention too. Princess AOC also noticed the change. At first she was a little embarrassed. She had meant to make a strong point, but her words had sounded too harsh. She sat in her room that night, thinking and sipping chamomile tea. The next morning, she found a tiny envelope at her door. It had a wax seal with a little smiling turtle on it. Inside was a note that read, "Dear Princess AOC, thank you for your passion. The forest needs the squirrel just as much as it needs the turtle. Would you like to have lunch today and talk about ideas, not just arguments? Yours in teamwork, Sir J.K." Princess AOC smiled. She sent back a reply using her fastest pigeon. That afternoon, the two met under the cherry blossom tree in the Capitol garden. Sir Kennedy brought his famous giggleberry pie, and AOC brought homemade empanadas from her homeland. They sat on a checkered blanket, swapping stories and snacks. They talked about big things, like schools, jobs, and what kind of playgrounds children should have. But they also talked about small things, like how AOC had once accidentally dyed her hair blue with a potion shampoo, or how Sir Kennedy had gotten lost in the Capitol basement looking for the cookie room. They laughed a lot. From that day forward, something new was born in Capitol Hill, the Fellowship of Friendly Fighters. It was a group made up of leaders who promised to debate with courage, but also with respect. They still had disagreements, big ones even, but they agreed to never make fun of each other, to always listen first, and to try to understand before trying to win. The group grew. Princess AOC invited her friend Sir Bernie the Wise. Sir Kennedy invited Lady Lisa, who had a pet cat named Freedom. Even Queen Kamala dropped by sometimes, wearing shiny shoes and bringing chocolate-covered cherries. Every week they held a listen and laugh luncheon, where members shared their ideas, their differences, and most importantly, their desserts. And guess what? The kingdom started to change. Because when leaders listen to each other, the people feel heard too. New playgrounds popped up, schools got better lunches, more families got the help they needed. People were happier, not because everyone agreed, but because they had learned to disagree kindly. And it all started with one bold squirrel and one smiling turtle. In the end, both Princess AOC and Sir John Kennedy became legends, not just for what they said, but for how they chose to treat each other. And whenever someone asked, "Can kindness really change the world?" all the children of the land would answer, "Yes, just ask the squirrel and the turtle."